Hi, and welcome to another episode of What's It Like with Yorks. I am your host, Yorks, aka Yorkwin, and we have with us Kayla. Hi, Kayla. Introduce yourself.
Hey,
Introduce yourself.
hi everyone. My name is Kayla Droise. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all as well, and nice to meet you as well, Kayla. And Kayla, if you guys don't know, Kayla is a minister, ordained. Kayla.
Well, depends on the church background, but yeah, you can say it.
Okay. All right. I reached out to Kayla because I first was aware of Kayla through a friend of mine called Demar Ferran. You remember Demar, right?
Of course I do. How can you forget?
Yeah, pastor or no, doctor, right? Uh,
Dr. Pastor Reverend Fearon, yes.
yes, yes. Demar and I were actually housemates, not roommates, but housemates in while we're in at some that sorry while we're at Northern Caribbean University. He was studying religion and I was studying communications with an emphasis in IT. And when I was made aware of her, she was doing a religious series, and I was like, I would love to get to know her and meet her. And someone, not someone, but a lady in ministry preaching, especially in the Adventist church, isn't very common. So I said, you know what, let me because we're now in the fourth season of What's It Like. And I said, you know what? I would love for people to find out what's it like being a minister and a preacher, and all of that journey, especially being a lady, someone of the finer gender, to be a part of this. So, Kayla, tell us first, how or why or when did you know that there was a calling on your life to become a minister?
Okay, so first things first, I received that calling or the pull or the drive when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a very abusive Caribbean home.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us know what that's like growing up. And I remember I started reading my Bible because of how stressful and how traumatizing the house was. And I told myself that at 18, I was going to leave home. But I was just like, God, I need to seek you because people say that you're the one who makes them less stressed. They say that, going to God and he takes care of you. And I was just like, I am going through so much mentally in this home. I need somebody that's a comforter. I need a comforter. And so I started to read my Bible to escape my house.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, it's like when I would read the word of God, I was just so it was such a great escape. And I felt so loved and I felt so comforted. And I got to hear from a man who was a father who loved his children and what he did, what kind of love that was, because that's not the kind of love I saw growing
Mm-hmm.
up in the house I was in.
Yeah.
And then I remember I would wake up reciting sermons and I would wake up with literal scriptures on my tongue and I would write them down and I started writing down sermons and before I knew I was like, oh my gosh, this is a sermon. It's not just a scripture or a text, it's a sermon.
Mm.
And I'd start writing them. Um, and then when I was 18, I preached my first sermon.
Wow.
Um, and at that time at the church I preached it, they didn't even respect or revere females in ministry. You were
Wow.
a sister so and so, or you were a speaker so and
Mm.
so. You weren't preacher, you weren't minister, none of those things like that. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get to see a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
preaching growing up.
Wow.
Um, and so the call definitely was at 15.
Mm-hmm.
The jump to actually doing something was at 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a break trying to get my life together after leaving home, trying to establish myself. By 21, I believe it was 21 or it was
Mm-hmm.
20, I found my way up to Oakwood University. I did not know how it was going to go. I didn't have a lot of
Wow.
money. It was just me by myself. And
Wow.
I decided, I was like, okay, God, you're going to make a way.
Mm-hmm.
I got to Oakwood with plans to live in one of my friends from Florida. She had an
Mm-hmm.
apartment, and I was gonna just live with her for a minute. And then she
Mm-hmm.
ended up getting a new place, and she said to me, she was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Listen, um, this place is pretty much paid for, but I have nobody to take it over."
Wow.
And she was like, "I don't know if you need somewhere to live." Oh my goodness, I needed somewhere
Wow.
to live. And so I ended
Wow.
up doing that, and I ended up meeting the girl in the house who is like my best friend now.
Uh-huh.
She's from Spanish Town, and just being with her and everything just made the transition to Huntsville so much easier, not being
Wow.
alone and having somebody who's cooking meals with you. And, I
Wow.
didn't have to worry about what I was going to eat because brown stew chicken and curry chicken was
Wow.
available for me.
Look
So
at that.
yeah, so it worked really well for me. And the transition of I didn't get to enjoy Oakwood to the fullest because right around the time that I was about to start school, my youngest sibling, she had a really awful living situation and she had asked if she could live with me. And at the time, she was in high school.
Mm.
And in order for me to provide for me, myself and my
Had to go work.
a 16, 17-year-old sister,
Mm-hmm.
I had to not be in school. So I didn't
Wow.
get to go to school. I didn't get to go to Oakwood. Um, and it was hard. It was hard being so
Mm.
close. Like I came all this way,
Mm.
but I couldn't afford to do both. So I ended up working
Mm-hmm.
to and luckily making good friends
Mm-hmm.
that went to Oakwood and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and making some great connections. God is good.
Mm-hmm.
After that transition, I moved back down to Florida to be with
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to where I was trying to jumpstart ministry all over again. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, God, this is what I really wanted to do. So I was preaching and teaching
Mm-hmm.
and doing things with a lot of churches and things, and it was a really good streak for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that all up until I met my husband. By that time, I went back to seminary, went to a
Mm-hmm.
seminary in Orlando, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I finished there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much where I've been, and that's how I'm here.
Wow. Wow. So you went through a lot of stuff there. So let's parse it up a little bit. So you said
Mhm.
you had some trauma at home.
Mhm.
Was that, first of all, back up. You were born in Jamaica or born in the States?
Born in the States, raised in the UK.
Raised in the UK. Okay.
Mhm.
And when you made the move from your then home to Oakwood, you were in the States at the time.
Yes, yes, yes. Been in the States the
Okay,
whole
but
time.
you're in the
Mhm.
States the whole time. Okay, okay. And from that trauma at home to having to basically raise your sibling and going to work because that sibling obviously went through the same trauma, it looked like
Mhm.
something since you left, they kind of turned on him or her,
Yes.
and then they wanted an escape, like because like I'm listening to you, and your story sounds almost exactly like mine, right?
Aw.
Yeah, and this is the first time, guys. It's the first time we've ever spoken about any of this. Before this, it's always been hi, bye, and comments on Facebook. So that's why I know that this is God ordained, because two persons living their own lives, and by chance, thank you, Demar, we get to meet, and then our lives are almost mirror of each other.
Mhm.
And then you said you went back to Florida. That was because I assumed stuff at Oakwood were getting very hard.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
you were in Florida, and that's where you met your husband, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, look at that. Look at those eyes beam, guys. We'll get to that. We're getting to that. And so while you were in Florida and you met your husband, then was when you decided to go back to ministry, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Because that was always the goal. I just so
Okay.
much life
So much
happened.
life happened. Okay,
Yeah.
so my question to you is: was it your husband that encouraged you to get back into seminary?
Yes. He was like, you got to do it eventually. This is what you want. My husband's a very order,
Mhm.
linear person. Things gotta
Mhm.
make sense. He's an engineer,
Mhm.
so things have to make sense with him.
Oh.
And so he was like, "You want to preach, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." It's like,
Mhm.
"You need to go to school," and I was like, "Well," I was just, it was just so much. Like, every time I tried to do something for
Uh-huh.
myself,
Mhm.
I had to help family. I had to help somebody.
Yeah.
And so it was just like the fear of, okay, if I do this for myself, what will happen? Who's going to need me? Will I
Mhm.
be able to finish? All these
Mhm.
things. And so luckily, I was able to do that. I was able to finish. Um,
Thank
and
God.
yeah, take care of that. So yeah, that's
Thank
where we are.
God. And in veering off topic a little bit, so take me to the introduction and how you met your husband, because I'm really curious about that.
Yes. So that's what you say. So I met him at church. Anybody who knows
Uh-huh.
me knows I live at a church, somebody church.
Okay.
So there was this group in Orlando at the time called Connect Orlando. I ended up being one of the presidents for the ministry, but
Mhm.
it was a Friday night thing. A
Mhm.
bunch of people get together,
Mhm.
worship, service, preach, teach,
Mhm.
hang out,
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm. Hang on.
One night I was with a girlfriend of mine, longtime friend from when we were children,
Mhm.
and she was in Orlando now. She was like, "Hey, girl, you gotta meet all my friends. You gotta meet all my,"
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
she's Haitian, so she's like, "You gotta meet all my Haitian friends."
Uh-huh.
And it was late at night. Black people church service did not end on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is 9:30, 10 o'clock. Okay, I want to go to my bed.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And
want to go sleep because tomorrow is church
yeah,
again.
yes, yes, it's a Friday night. Somebody said, I was like, "Girl, I don't want to meet anybody." And she's like, "No, no, come." And the thing is, I rode with her to church, so I had to,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
You have no
I
choice.
have to go wherever exactly. So I go to this group, and there's a group of people that's standing around in a circle,
Uh-huh.
and majority of them are Haitian. There's like a Jamaican in there somewhere, whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And everybody's saying hello to me. I don't remember anything because it was late, but I see this one man, and he had
Mhm.
beautiful teeth. He had a beautiful smile. It was
Mhm.
dark. He's
Mhm.
dark. All I saw was
Mhm.
the teeth, but I knew he had beautiful teeth. That's
Yeah.
what I remembered,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So one day I'm going to a church, um, like a week or two later. It was not very long. A week or two later,
Mhm.
I go to church, see this man walk out the doors. I said to him, and he was like, "Hey, I remember you." I was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
you're the man with the pretty teeth."
Yeah.
And he was dark skinned, but I know he blushed, okay? I was like, I remember you. And he was like,
Oh
"Yeah." And I
boy.
was like, wanting to connect and things. And so
Mhm.
he had said to me, I was like, "Yeah, so what are you doing after church?" I was
Mhm.
like, "I'm doing Bible study at my place." He was like, "Oh, I'm doing Bible study at my place." And I was like, "Okay." And I
Okay.
was like, "Well, we can't meet. Well, we can't hang out because, I'm doing Bible study. He's doing Bible study." So we
Mhm.
said to him, I was just like, "All right, well, let's exchange contact." And he was like, "Let's exchange contact. And next time I'll invite you to mine." I was like, "Okay, that's fine."
Okay. Cool.
So we exchanged information. I don't hear from this man for weeks.
Oh
And I
boy.
was like, "Oh, okay, maybe something, whatever the case may be, I'm not going to worry about it too much."
Mhm.
And my roommate at the time, she's from the Virgin Islands. She was just like, let's get on a dating app. Let's see if we can,
Mhm.
we gotta go out. We gotta meet men
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
was just
Mhm.
like, I'm an organic person. I like meeting you in a parking lot, in the
Sure.
mall. I like meeting you in the store.
Sure.
So I was like, I don't want to do this. She's like, no, no, you gotta get on the app. Get on
Mhm.
the app. And it was just too many people and too many things. I was like, I'm gonna get off this app.
I'm
I was
off.
getting off work one night, and I told myself, I said, as soon as I get home from work and I take a shower,
Mhm.
I'm deleting the app because it's
Mhm.
not, it's four
Mhm.
days on it, and I'm like, no, I don't
Mhm.
like it.
Mhm.
After that, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. As I'm doing that, I get a message, and this man goes, "What are you doing on this app?" And I said to him, I said, "What are you doing on the app?" And he was like, "I'm going to text you." And it was him. And I was just
Mhm.
like, I said, "You're so lucky because I was going to delete the app tonight." He texted
Oh
me
boy.
right before I got home. And I was like, I was about this close to
Mhm.
deleting the app. And he was
Oh
like,
boy.
let's do lunch and things like that. And I said, okay. So
Mhm.
we set up a time and we go to lunch. It is
Mhm.
February 2nd. and we're at the Cheesecake Factory doing our lunch,
Mhm.
and we're talking, and he's telling me his birthday is in a few days. I
Mhm.
was like, my birthday's
Mhm.
in 2 weeks, and so we find out we have birthdays
Wow.
in the same month.
Oh
We
wow.
start talking about future things, and I'm very
Mhm.
direct. So I was like, okay, so
Mhm.
how long before you think you're going to get married? He was like, oh, I believe in being married about 2 years. I should be in a good place in my
Mhm.
career by that time. And I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, okay, Kayla, all you have to do is hang on for 2 years. You have to just stick around
Mhm.
this man for 2 years, and this is going to be your husband.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so after the date was finished, he said to me, he was like, when do I get to see you again? I said, well, I have
Mhm.
to preach in a few hours. So if you want to come see me again, you should come to
Come to
service.
church. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
he came to church, and he watched me, and he heard everything. He heard me teach at a church
Wow.
locally. And he was like, you did a really great job. And then, but he was like, but next time I think you should da 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 da. And I was just so taken aback because
Wow.
he
He
listened.
critiqued you.
Yes, he listened and he cared. And I was just like,
Mhm.
I like this man. And ever since
Mhm.
then, we've been together ever since.
Mhm.
2 years later from that date, from that month,
Mhm.
we got
Mhm.
engaged. And
Wow.
but it's the same year we got engaged. It's a pandemic. So it just so I was dress hunting, I was venue looking, all of a
Wow.
sudden the world
And then
shut
everywhere
down.
just shut
Shut
down.
down. I didn't get to have the big wedding or nothing like that.
Yeah.
So we were like, the world shut down anyway, so let's just go to a courthouse.
Mhm.
We did a whole courthouse thing. We're in a
Mhm.
pandemic.
Mhm.
There's a baby that comes upon us.
Mhm. Of course, because there's nothing else to
There's
do.
And so
Uh-huh.
so my son is 3. He's 3
Mhm.
now. And so yeah,
Mhm.
that's how I met my husband. That's how I met him.
Oh boy. So you just went through a lot of stuff there,
Yeah.
and again, I'm gonna have to unpack a
Go
little
ahead.
bit.
Go ahead.
So, so backing up to when you guys met, it was the first organic one, which was the Friday night service,
Yeah.
or the lime or
Yeah.
social or whatever you want to call it, at church,
Yeah.
and and you mentioned like you guys kind of started dating, but the first thing that kind of clicked to you was when he critiqued your sermon the first time he heard you preach,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Now, leading up to that, like before that, would you say in your mind he was a nice guy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he was nice.
Okay.
He was definitely
Okay.
he was definitely nice.
I ask because, there's this whole thing about nice guys finishing last.
Well, there's different types of nice. Okay. My husband is very direct and abrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
is not one to sugarcoat anything. Like
Okay.
when we first met, I have to tell him, "Hey, you can't say that to people. Like you have to be nicer, be sweeter, be
Uh-huh.
gentle, be this, be that." Because
Okay.
he's very. It comes out like
Oh,
that. He does
wow.
not sugarcoat anything, and he would hurt
Oh,
people's
wow.
feelings all the time by how he said things. And I was like, but he didn't mean to. It just
Yeah, he was blunt.
very, very blunt. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would not say he's a nice guy. I would not say he's
Okay.
he's a sweetheart. Like it's
Uh-huh.
it's
He
hard to
was
say.
nice to you.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
nice to you.
But even sometimes I was just like, ooh, say it nicer, nicer, nicer. But yeah, yes. Sorry.
You know what I'm discovering even about myself.
Hmm.
Like I would say things, and my wife would be like, dear, that kind of comes off,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
and I'm discovering that about me because I am somewhat of a nerd too, because I'm not saying that your husband is a nerd, but
Yeah.
he's involved in numbers,
Yes. Yes.
and what I'm discovering is that people who are very scientific and involved in numbers, and who some persons might consider a nerd,
Yeah.
uh, we don't. What's the word? We don't have nuance sometimes,
No.
and we're not very.
No.
Let me not say nice, but we're very direct, as you
Yes.
said,
Yes.
and some people might consider us as snobs. Uh, and what I had to do, because reflecting back on my own journey, I went to two high schools in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is a very traditional high school. They've been around in Jamaica for 300 years.
Wow.
And the other one, yeah, the other one is Seventh day Adventist High School.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason I went to two was because I was bullied at the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And at the second one, I said, you know what? This is not going to happen. So the first one, because I was considered a nerd and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I had these big windshield glasses, I was bullied. And then now, fast forward to the second one, the first thing I decided to do, you know, what is that one thing that comes natural to me? And at that time, it was singing.
Okay.
So yeah, so in another life, I used to sing.
Come on.
So I started singing at that second high school. It's called Maypen High School, ran by Mr. Winston E. Preddy. Uh, I would say that man and his wife was also the vice principal, saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because he taught Bible, she taught English, Spanish, and English literature, and of course he also ran the school. But what I'm trying to say is that during those two times in my life, I literally had to learn how to change how people saw me. And the cool guy who then went on to university, NCU, Northern Caribbean University,
Yes.
and was then seen as a cool dude. And then I kind of got too cool and started involving in some other stuff, which I won't say right now. But let's just say that at one point in time, my nickname was called Gangsta Nerd. Yeah, but I digress. Basically, I became a DJ and some other stuff like that.
Okay.
Anyways, fast forward. What I'm discovering is that as a late bloomer myself, we still have some traits of, you know, being very direct and stuff like that. And if it weren't for the finer gender, as I would say, or our wives or our spouses or girlfriends, some of us would just continue down that
Yes.
straight,
Very.
direct path.
Yes. Yes.
And even reflecting on the whole trauma that you experienced, I also experienced trauma while I was in at home, and it went all the way up to high school,
Mm-hmm.
and because I went to Northern Caribbean University, not with the support of my father,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I could say more, but this is really about you. Anyways, fast forward now. When did you know that this was gonna be your husband?
When did I know this? I knew this a few times. I
Mm-hmm.
knew this when I saw him interact with my family.
Mm.
My great grandfather is still alive. He turns 88, 89
Oh
next
wow!
month. But you know,
In
Caribbean
Jamaica,
people, Jamaica, yeah,
yeah.
he's still kicking. He lifts up stuff, goes running, go jog, does the garden, does all the. Oh yeah, he's fine. There's nothing old about Pops, nothing at all.
Wow.
My grandmother, who she was born in Jamaica, raised in England.
Okay.
Very, very, very loving. She's the one who kind of like took care and raised me and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
they loved him bad. They loved him bad. He couldn't do no
Wow.
wrong. He was perfect in
Mm-hmm.
their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I knew by the way he handled me in situations.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many things that happened in between us being married and me
Mm-hmm.
moving back. And he
Mm-hmm.
was so supportive of that. I lost my great grandmother in that. My mom tried to make another appearance back into my life, and it was god awful. And he was there through all of it. He was supportive of my dreams. He wanted to make sure they happened. He didn't just say, okay, well, this is what you want to do. Hurry up and do what you need to do. It was, what can I do? Not even asking me. I found all these places for you. These are the seminaries that you can go to. These are the schools.
Wow.
Oh, he was on it. And I was like, oh my goodness. He was never intimidated about what I did. I was preaching at that time in Florida. Everybody knew me in Florida. So I was preaching all over the place. And that man was driving right behind me, right there with me at all my preaching engagements. And there was never a, like, you know, being a woman. I'm the woman. I'm sometimes when I go places, I'm the only woman in the room. You know, I'm the youngest in the room, you know, and he was never intimidated by, oh, you're going to be around men again, or, oh, there's going to be this. He knew exactly.
Total trust.
Oh, yes. And he was very confident in himself. Nobody was going to stop him from being and showing up for me, you know, and that made that, I love that. He had a plan for his life. He already knew what he wanted. On our first date at the Cheesecake Factory, he said to me, he said, how stuck are you to Florida? Like, how committed are you to staying in Florida? I was like, oh, you know, I can preach all over the world. It doesn't matter. You know, preaching is something I can do wherever. He was like, okay, good, because my dream is to move to Texas. I really want to move to Texas. And then
everything's bigger in Texas.
Lo and behold, after we got married, he during the pandemic, he got a job opportunity here in Austin, Texas. And I was just loving how God was just, everything that man put in place, it was happening for him. But he's a doer. He's not somebody who just talks about things. I love seeing where he put his money. My husband can afford whatever he wanted, and yet he lived so humbly. It was almost irritating how humbly he lived, but he was simple. He didn't need a lot.
Are you saying he's cheap?
Well,
frugal is the word, y'all. Quinn, frugal is the word.
Frugal is the word. I would see, he cooked for himself. He ironed his own clothes. He's very self-sufficient. And, you know, now I make the joke, like, all the things I loved about him back when we dated, I kind of dislike now, because he doesn't need me for anything. You know what I mean? He's not, oh, I need that food that you made the other day, and can you cook for me? If I'm not home, he's already made a full course meal. Easter weekend, I was preaching in North Carolina, so I was gone from either Friday night and Saturday and everything. So I was gone on ministry, and this man, now I prepped the food, but he cooked Easter Sunday dinner, and he did it. You know, I didn't have to call a girlfriend of mine to come help, and he did it. And so those things are so attractive to me when courting and dating him. And I was just so in love with the fact that he had it all together. Like, the only thing about him that sucked at time was that he just was really, really harsh with his words. But I can deal with that, you know? I can live with that. We can be okay with that. So that was it for me, yeah.
Okay. So you said he cooked Easter dinner. Now, 2 questions. 1,
yes,
what was it? And 2, you said you prepped. So did you give him instructions, or it was just second nature to him?
I gave him some instructions because those are not meals, like certain things that he cooks. He is a chicken and fish kind of man. He is a Caribbean man.
Oh,
chicken and fish.
Okay.
You know, that's what he does.
Okay.
So
He's
anything
Asian?
else beyond that, he's like, what is this? You know? So I made leg of lamb. I did a lamb.
It's not I, it's we. It's we made.
We made, thank you. We made roast leg of lamb. So I had seasoned it, marinated it, and let it sit for a few days. We had made some salmon that he ended up seasoning and marinating himself. So he did that.
Wow.
We had some roasted potatoes. I wasn't home, so they had some roast potatoes. He made the macaroni and cheese. He made the vegetables. I don't think we had cabbage that day, but that was the meal, and rolls and juice and all these things. And I was just like, you know, he took care of that for me because I was away. Yeah, and so that was that. That's what Easter dinner was.
Dinner was like. So I'm curious.
Yes.
You said mac and cheese.
Yes.
Soupy or baked?
So we not soupy. It was baked. I like both. I
Okay.
believe that,
Okay.
especially Caribbeans, but Black people have the
Mhm.
stronghold of baked mac and cheese in their spirit, where that's the only way we seem to eat it. But I like having it however it's presented. But he baked it. That's what he baked.
Okay. I like baked myself. Soupy can pass, but it's not my
It's not the
favorite
fave.
forte.
Understood.
Yeah, because I do mac and cheese baked myself with corn. It's a whole thing
Okay.
on social media. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you look through my Instagram stories, you'll see a messy countertop and a messy kitchen, but
But the
I did
food
a
was
couple of
good.
stuff. Yeah, my wife likes it,
Okay,
and
good.
my daughter, she's 5, so she likes it as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So so you said it was when you noticed his interaction with your family,
Mm-hmm.
and how so because I do weddings with Walter's Weddings, and we've worked all across the Western Hemisphere, from as far north as Canada to
Oh.
as far south as Panama / Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
But most of it has been in Jamaica and Canada.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the questions that I asked, or that I ask my brides, at the end of the day, is, when did you know, and how did the confirmation come about? Now, I know he's not on this interview,
Mm-hmm.
but has he ever told you when he knew that he was gonna marry you?
Okay, so my husband is a man of very few words, and
Mm-hmm.
he has told me before, but it's not as elaborate as mine. It's more like, yeah, I knew from that one time that you did that. That was nice. My mom liked you. That was good. No, I was like, there's no story. There's no.
He's very direct.
I told you, very direct, very short. It's a one sentence and a period. That's it. That's all you're gonna get.
So, because I'm very curious about this, because, and I mentioned about, the whole thing of Nice Guys finishing last,
Yeah.
and I'm currently in the process of writing a book called Nice Guys Finish First.
Okay.
Yeah. And I what happened was that I thought to myself, because I have a daughter, and I thought to myself, if I have a son and I am not around for some point in time, whatever, I would like to write a book of advice to my child, my son.
Oh,
And yeah, so so my wife is now pregnant. The gender, yes, she's pregnant. She's due in
congratulations.
Thank you. And she's due in August. Now, I know the gender. She doesn't. I won't reveal it right now. But we are due. She's due in August, and I would love to write a book of advice to young men, especially young men of our ilk, young men like us who can be, late bloomers
Yeah.
and considered nerds,
Mm-hmm.
but also something to encourage them. And that's why I came up with the whole Nice Guys Finish First.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time that I'm publicly saying this, by the
Yes.
way. So you are getting an exclusive.
Yes. So I
So
will
go
say to
ahead.
you,
Mm-hmm.
Yorkwin, I will say, when you say it like that, my husband is
Mm-hmm.
definitely a nice guy.
Okay.
So many self-sacrifices he made to make sure I was
Mm-hmm.
okay. Versus I've dated
Mm-hmm.
men who were like, "Oh, you'll be all right, just get it together, whatever." He always put himself in the situation and wanted to bring me out of it with my, like, he wanted to do it together. It wasn't a dictation. Do what I say and do that. No,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was, I see you're in this trench. I'm coming
Mm-hmm.
in the trench with you, and I'm gonna hold your hand and
Yeah,
get you out. So
I
I
get
would
you out.
definitely, hands down,
Mm-hmm.
say my husband is a
Mm-hmm.
nice guy. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. Okay. That's good, and I thank you for that. Very heartwarming, because growing up, I mentioned that I went to 2 high schools. My second high school, there were young ladies that I liked,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a couple of heartbreaks, as high schools always go.
Yeah.
But I never really had a quote unquote girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't until like really when I started university that, well, actually I had a girlfriend, but it wasn't at my high school. It was at another high school, but we, you know how, well, well, maybe you know, but I'm gonna say this for the general audience
Mm-hmm.
that in the Caribbean, and I'm gonna speak for myself,
Mm-hmm.
in Jamaica, the pastors don't pastor one church.
Mm-hmm.
They pastor a group of
Mm-hmm.
churches, and that's called a district.
Mm-hmm.
And in that district of churches, my father was the elder at the church that I went to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the elder for 20 plus years. And on the way to church, because we drove about 35, 40 minutes to go to church, and there are different churches on that way. But where we were living to go to that church wasn't where we were always living. Before, we were living nearer to church.
Mm-hmm.
So even when we moved, my dad still went to the same church.
Mm-hmm.
And he never moved his membership for basically his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of that, going to church, there were other churches on the way.
Yeah.
So one of the churches on the way, I went to visit that church. You know, when you're a teenager, you start to visit churches. I went to that church, met my first girlfriend, and to this day we're still friends. My wife knows her and stuff like that. Even when we went to Ontario in January to and this is how funny things are. When we were moving from Jamaica to Canada,
Mm-hmm.
we were in the GTA, the Greater Toronto area. And we were there for just 10 days and on our way to Winnipeg, where we live now, which is in Manitoba. So it was GTA, then Alberta, then Winnipeg. But when we were in the GTA, we went to a thrift store and just out of the blue saw this young lady and she's like, Yorquin? Or she, like how she would call me, Yorquin.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That sounds about right.
I'm like, wait, hello, hi. And she was like, you don't remember me? At this time, her features had changed and stuff
Of
like that.
course.
And I'm like, and I called her name. And she's like, yes. So at that time, you know, my wife met her and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, my wife knows my first girlfriend, and my wife knows my last girlfriend.
Oh.
Yeah, my last girlfriend actually is also a nurse like my wife, and they actually worked together. And my wife actually, because my wife is also a midwife,
Oh.
my wife,
Wow. I
yes,
love
just like my mother, another story. And in meeting and in working at in Kingston, my wife actually attended to my ex-girlfriend while she was pregnant.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
Small
So
world. Small world.
small world. So we met again, my first girlfriend, and then when we went to GTA in Ontario, I mentioned to my first girlfriend that, hey, passing through GTA, it's our 10th anniversary, New Year's Day, because we got married on New Year's Day 2014. And she said, hey, she gave me some advice, and that was great because it actually pushed up our antennas even more. We were a little bit more anxious, but everything was fine. We came here, and the point of the story that I'm trying to say is that sometimes you are in a situation, growing up or whatever, and you're wondering, why can't my life be like so and so? Why can't my life be like this guy or that guy? And what I would say is to everyone watching, don't rush it. Don't look at someone else's life and compare it, because you don't know the hell that they're going through. I have friends who are my age who are divorced. One of my closest friends, because I have two best friends, one of my best friends are divorced, and we are 9 days apart. So we're both 40 years old. And also, I know of people who are my age or even younger who have passed. Um, Today, I found out that another one of my friends, well, it's a rumor on Facebook. It's not, you know how Facebook is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you might see someone saying, hey, I hear this. Can you reach out and they tag the person? So that's what's going on right now. And it's the second one of my friends that I went to NCU with in the past week that has died, or it's alleged that this person has died. No confirmations yet.
Mm.
The first one is confirmed, but this one isn't confirmed. So that's even more reason why I know that I'm glad we're having this conversation now, because there are times when, and you said that with your husband, he was like, "Oh, my mom liked you," and that's when I knew
Mm-hmm.
XYZ. And for you, which is why I'm now reverting back to the original conversation, I I I compare it to myself, because for me it was a similar thing whereby the final I knew that my wife Lorian was special, but the final test was when she met my sister, because I'm number 3 out of 3, and there's my brother, my sister, and myself. However, my sister has special needs, right? She has special needs, and as such, I was like, whoever, um, back up. So for me, it was when the final test, well, test, but yeah, the final test was when my wife met my sister, because it's back up. Okay. So for me, the final test was when my wife met my sister, and that was basically the final test, because my sister, who is older than I am, I
Mm-hmm.
know that more than likely I'm gonna be the one to take care of her until she dies.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever I marry is gonna be instrumental in helping to take care
With your
of
sister.
my sister. So when my wife met my sister, and I saw how caring she was and how thoughtful she was, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yep, that's it. That's it." Yes, my mother loves her and stuff like that, and she and my mother speaks even more. She and my mom speaks even more than we do. Um, so, like, there are times when my wife will say to me, "Have you spoken to your mother? When was the last time you
Mm-hmm.
spoke to your
Yeah,
mother?"
yeah.
So it's like that, and in addition to that, it after getting married and talking to my mother, one of our many conversations, she's like, "I know this doesn't happen," and because my mother is a Seventh Day Adventist Christian, so we know the state of the dead, and she's like, "I know this doesn't happen, but you, um, first of all, you chose a great wife, and I know this doesn't happen, but if when I pass, and if anything were to happen and you hurt your wife, I would probably turn in my grave." That's the relationship that my wife and my mother has, right?
I love.
They're both nurses. Thank you. They're both nurses, both midwives, and it's funny that both of our in-laws get together. I mean, not get together, but they get along.
Yeah.
They get along, and switching over to you and your husband and your ministry, tell me, how is it for you, like when you are about to speak, and how is it for you meeting other members of ministry, and what is it like for you, like how are you being treated, or how, like, what are some of the misconceptions or notions when people see you as a minister?
That's a lot to pack now, Yorquin. That's a lot.
I know.
Because there's so much in that. It depends on the
Hmm.
setting.
Hmm.
There's some places where people don't even respect me as one.
Wow.
Most people, for those of you who are going to be watching, my
Hmm.
hashtag is pretty preacher, right? And I
Hmm.
want to make sure I clarify that my hashtag is not because I think I'm just so pretty, I'm just so
Hmm.
beautiful. It's the fact that I'm
Hmm.
a woman in a male dominated space. So it's just the
Hmm.
fact that I'm a lady preacher, I'm a female preacher, not has nothing to do with aesthetic. It's just about gender. I'm a
Hmm.
pretty preacher because I'm a woman. I'm a woman
Hmm.
preacher. And
Hmm.
I'm very confident in that. I
Hmm.
have to get to a place where I'm not going to allow an insecure man or woman to stop me
Mhm.
from being my true feminine self. I have made a thing where I preach in pink, right? Unless somebody asks me to preach in black, or there's a
Mhm.
special service where we have to wear a certain color. But if you
Mhm.
don't give
Mhm.
me a dress code, I'm preaching in pink, because I like
Mhm.
to set the standard that women are allowed to be feminine and pretty. They're allowed to be
Mhm.
girly. We're
Mhm.
allowed to be. We don't have to sound like a man to be respected.
Mhm.
So depending on where I go, some people, it's all googly eyes. It's, ooh, look at her.
She's so pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't care that I preach. They don't want to hear that I preach. They don't
Mm.
want to hear that I went to school. They don't want to hear about my
Mhm.
ministry goals. They don't want to hear about my other ministries that I have. They just
Mhm.
care about looks. Then you have some
Mm.
people who don't want to hear about anything because they're
Mhm.
irritated by the way I look. And that's an irritation.
Mm.
There's people who, for women and men, it's not even just one or the
Mm.
other. It is both. Oh, you don't need to do all that. You need to do less. You look too done up. Who you
Wow.
think you are? Da, da, da. All these things.
Wow.
When there are men with $2,000 5-piece suits on, and $300 shoes, and $500 watches, but nobody cares or clocks them on what they look like. But you want to clock me
Wow.
because I'm easier. I'm an easier target. It's easier for
Wow.
me. There's a lot of churches, especially more on my Caribbean side, that
Mhm.
are more hesitant about me preaching for them. They don't like
Mhm.
the aesthetic. They don't like the look.
Mhm.
They believe that
Mhm.
Adventist women or Christian women should not
Mhm.
be as done up. They believe you should be more plain, or let me not say
Mm.
plain because that could be offensive.
Mhm.
Just less, right? It doesn't take
Mhm.
all that to look like this.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I respect that woman. I do. I really
Mhm.
do. And that doesn't.
Mhm.
I'm not offended at all. That is what you
Mhm.
believe, and that's what
Mhm.
you are called to. However, I know what I'm
Mhm.
called to. I know the
Mhm.
ministry
Mhm.
I have.
Mhm.
There was a
Mhm.
time where I was told by a lady preacher. I had went to Oakwood for a conference,
Mhm.
and I was so excited to meet her because of what she's done in ministry and who she is
Mhm.
to the body of Christ and the things that she's been
Mhm.
able to do. And
Mhm.
on meeting her, she looked me up and down and said, "You will never get a job." And
Wow.
I was taken aback. This is the first thing. She didn't say hello. She didn't say nothing like that. It was, "You would never get a job." And she said, "Look at you. Why do you think you
Mm.
belong here? These men will never hire you. They will never want you to work for
Wow.
them. Do you really think that they care about your hair and what you look like?" And she
Mhm.
was just like, "Fix yourself and then maybe you'll get somewhere."
What is
I
she?
was I was 22 at the
Mhm.
time, 21, 22, around there.
Mhm. Mhm.
I am a very tough cookie, but I went in the bathroom
Mhm.
of the theology department and I
Mhm.
cried. I cried for about, I'd say, a minute and 30 seconds, barely two
Mm.
minutes. And I gathered myself together and I said,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm going to change myself." And you're going, I
Mhm.
left the restroom. I'm leaving
Mhm.
the building. And all of a sudden,
Mhm.
somebody said to me, a woman said to me, she was like, "You are just such a beautiful pastor." She's like, "I love your outfit and I love your hair
Mm.
and I love how you coordinated everything." And I was so shocked because I
Mm.
wasn't pastoring, obviously, but I was just, she didn't know me from a can of paint. And that was the first thing that she decided to
Mm.
say. Then I
Mhm.
sat down and this man came up to me and he was just like, where's your church? Where do you minister?" And I said,
Mhm.
I'm here in Huntsville. I don't have a
Mhm.
church yet. He was like, "Okay, I'm in the
Mhm.
Bahamas and I'm always looking for women preachers." He was like, "I'd love
Mm.
to exchange information with you." Mind you, this is in
Mm.
the this is in the same interval as having this one
Mhm.
on one with this woman.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
another woman came up to me and she was just like, "I love seeing beautiful preachers." She was like, "You keep going,
Mm.
girl, and continue to be beautiful
Mm.
for Christ." And I was just like,
Mm.
all the confirmation I needed to stay the way I am, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
once again, I preach for very conservative churches, so I don't always look the
Mhm.
same. I'll look
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
simple.
Mhm.
I'll look
Mhm.
more muted
Mhm.
if need
Mhm.
be, depending on where I
Mhm.
am. But for the most
Mhm.
part, you're always going to get the pretty preacher
Mhm.
who is
Mhm.
confident, who does not
Mhm.
let man, and also
Mhm.
checking the heart, understanding where
Mhm.
people come from. Are you coming from a place of
Mhm.
insecurity and bad
Mm-hmm.
mindedness, or you come from a
Bad
place of
mind. Mm-hmm.
love and
Mm-hmm.
care? Do you care about me?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just wanting me to be safe out there? Like what is your
Mm-hmm.
motive when you speak to me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, we had to have that conversation, but it's been okay.
It I see it from both lenses.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna do it from the back to the front,
Okay.
meaning, because there's a saying where they say, "Be careful when you meet your heroes, because you never may never know."
Yes.
Right? And you met your hero, but then this person tore you down, or
Awful.
hero, quote unquote,
Hmm.
and then, like, immediately after that, it's like God sent you three confirmations that, hey, don't change, because you never know who may see themselves in you.
Yeah.
Right? That's one. And backing up, I can understand whereby with churches, especially conservative churches, they tend to see beautiful women as distractions from
Hmm.
the actual ministry,
Hmm.
right? Which is why I'm glad that you said that, depending on where you go,
Yeah.
you may mute it a little bit more,
Yeah.
tone it down, right? Which I understand, and it that goes to show, that you still have humility,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you research, and you're not gonna be just up in people's faces like, this is me, and you have to accept me. No, you respect where people are coming from, and you understand. Now, going going forward, like, she says you'll never find a church, and blah blah blah. But have you ever been in situations whereby someone has reached out to you and say, "Hey, thank you for your sermon. You have helped to deliver me, or you have helped to convert me, or you have really touched my heart," kind of a situation?
All the time, all the time. And I love ministering to women. I just finished preaching Easter week. I preached
Mm-hmm.
for a university in East Texas. It's a Christian
Mm-hmm.
university. And I had the best time. This is my second time going there. Um, and the women, it was Women's History Month was March. So I got to spend time with these women and just the love. Like, you really helped me. You were really so motivational. Like, we had such heart to heart conversations, and there were women are crying, they're talking about their life, they're talking about all these things, and it was just like, and then also they've nicknamed me on the campus the Pink Lady. um and they're just like, girl, we couldn't wait
Yes.
to have the Pink Lady come back. They're like, we love you so much. You are just so beautiful. And your hair
Boy.
is always nice. And then your lashes
Oh
are
God.
always done. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but you be bringing a word and you pray well. And it's just like
Mm-hmm.
all the things that can go well together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I never take it for granted. I never go into a place thinking, oh, yes, I'm going to kill this sermon. I am so good. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, I'm always in awe of God using me. There is
Mm-hmm.
never a moment where I'm not in awe
Mm-hmm.
of what God
Mm-hmm.
does through me, because there is too many times
Mm-hmm.
where I almost quit ministry. I've
Mm.
almost quit because I was sick and
Mm-hmm.
tired of how men treated me. I was sick and tired of being
Mm.
bullied. I was sick and
Mm-hmm.
tired of being what's the word? What's the proper word? I don't know the proper word, so forgive me. Blackballed. Where if I
Mm-hmm.
was not
Mm-hmm.
going to do what the men were going to do or
Mm-hmm.
follow the status quo, then I was going to
Mm-hmm.
be outcasted. And I
Mm.
was it was hard. It is hard. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
when you go to conferences or to groups and there's supposed to be female preachers, but because you don't look like them, they don't
Mm-hmm.
invite you
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, or they're fake,
Mm-hmm.
or they're two
Mm.
faced. And it's just like, there's too
Mm.
many times I've been to Oakwood campuses and
Mm-hmm.
met women who are supposed to be everybody's favorite female preacher. But once you meet me,
Mm-hmm.
it's just stink and rude and fresh. Like,
Mm-mm.
I'm just like, I'm
Fresh.
fresh, fresh. And it's just like, I'm a girl's girl. I love people. I'm so excited to meet
Mm-hmm.
anybody. Anybody can come
Mm-hmm.
talk to me. Anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, when I meet people who are not like that. And it's not just about
Mm-hmm.
being reserved. It's about
Mm-hmm.
just being bad mind. You're just
Yeah.
bad. You're just
Yeah.
an awful person. You're
Yeah.
just evil.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
that hurts. That hurts.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because, and touching on what you said about you're not doing what the men do. I have a follow up question which I'm saving, but
Okay.
you're not doing what the men do. What are some of the things that the men do? Because one of my irks, or something that irks me sometimes, is, do you have a preaching voice? Like, do you change your voice while in the pulpit?
I know exactly what you're talking about. No, I think I sound
Yeah.
pretty much the same. There's my cadence. I might be
Mm-hmm.
slower, or I might pick up things like that, but my voice does not change. My voice, what you
Mm-hmm.
hear right now, is the voice.
And the Lord said,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yes,
And men do it all the time, though. I know some men
yes.
who, when you talk to them on a regular, they don't sound like that. But all of a sudden, in the
Mm-hmm.
pulpit, there are different. There's more bass in their voice, or less. Like
Yes,
I know
yes,
exactly what you're talking about. And some women too.
yes,
There's some women who feel like they
yes.
have to growl and sound like a man.
Mm.
Like, why? Ew. I
Yes,
am who
yes.
I am. I am this same person.
Be your true feminine self.
My true feminine self. And
Okay,
I know what I
okay.
sound like.
Uh-huh.
There was a season where trying to figure out my voice, like what I sound like. And no, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to sound like Sarah Jakes. I don't want to sound
Mm-hmm.
like the next person. I want to sound like myself. If that
Mm-hmm.
sounds similar to, okay, fine. But I want it to
Mm-hmm.
be myself. And finding your own voice is very important.
Mm-hmm. And you've rewatched yourself and critiqued yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm a hard critic. Yeah, I enjoy. I just need to look I just like looking confident and making sure I
Mm-hmm.
sound well. And I
Mm-hmm.
dictate, and
Mm-hmm.
I smile, and I do all the things that I think are necessary and
Mm-hmm.
needed, versus trying to go in there and put on a show. Just not me. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
that.
And I that's brilliant. I heard you mentioned earlier about ministerial goals or ministry goals.
Yeah.
What are your ministry goals?
So I enjoy evangelism right now. I'm enjoying being a just a minister who gets taken here, flown here, whatever, just to come
Mm-hmm.
preach for a day, a women's
Mm-hmm.
weekend, a
Mm-hmm.
women's
Mm-hmm.
retreat, things like that. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a certified makeup artist. So other
Mm-hmm.
than doing weddings and things of that nature, I have
Mm-hmm.
so many clergy women I get to do makeup for, female pastors I do faces for.
Really?
Especially on the Baptist side, which I've got to meet and be mentored by.
Mm-hmm.
This coming week, I have a week full of makeup ministry.
Wow.
So I'm going
Wow.
to a church in Kansas City where I
Mm-hmm.
am teaching their young women how to do skincare and self-care and maybe
Mm-hmm.
do an eyebrow here or there. But I'm teaching a group of women that. Then I'm flying to Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm doing a women's
Mm-hmm.
conference there too. I'll be doing the
Mm-hmm.
makeup for some of the women who
Mm-hmm.
are facilitating and teaching and preaching.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
that same
Mm-hmm.
weekend, I'm going to Michigan on the campus
Mm-hmm.
of Andrews University, where I
Mm-hmm.
am part of an Esther's conference where we're teaching women how
Mm-hmm.
to love themselves and beauty and self care.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be
Mm-hmm.
teaching and applying makeup and teaching how to do
Mm-hmm.
this and that. But it's all in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of God, it's all in the name of Jesus, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
one big thing for me that I want to continue to
Mm-hmm.
teach that. I love seeing the transformation. And it doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
bright cheeks and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
No, 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 no. And I want
Mm-hmm.
also letting people know that I might look like this, but when
Mm-hmm.
I do women's faces, especially so many of my church women don't wear makeup. They don't wear makeup, so this is new for them. It's baby
Mm-hmm.
steps. I believe in
Mm-hmm.
allowing women to feel beautiful and feel led and feel
Mm-hmm.
safe, right, to
Mm-hmm.
do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Because any
Mm-hmm.
kind of enhancement can be scary,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a wig, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's just getting your
Mm-hmm.
eyebrows waxed, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
putting on
Mm-hmm.
lipstick. It can be very
Mm-hmm.
scary depending on the church
Mm-hmm.
hurt and the
Mm-hmm.
church trauma and your theological
Yes.
mindset, of
Yes.
all of this.
Yes.
And then I know you followed me long enough, so you know
Mm-hmm.
about my intimacy and wellness
Mm-hmm.
ministry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am hoping to finish by summer, and I will
Mm-hmm.
be helping. My demographic is marriage and married couples in the church, as well as clergy and pastoral
Mm-hmm.
staff, about
Mm-hmm.
the liberation and the freedom through sex in marriage, and
Nice.
helping to allow women to
Nice.
enjoy their partner, their spouse, in the name
Nice.
of marriage and being saved and sanctified.
Nice.
So
Nice.
those are my
Nice.
ministerial goals.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you brought that up because there is a huge taboo on this topic.
Of course.
Uh, and it is my personal belief that if we spoke more about this, then there would be a lot less divorces.
For sure. For sure.
That's
And
my
other
personal.
things. Yes.
Yes.
That's one of my personal things as well. I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
And church, you just said another trigger word, church hurt.
Yeah.
And coming from a family whereby after I left, it was kind of an emptiness, and I say kind of
Mhm.
because my sister was still there,
Yeah.
but she couldn't go anywhere else. But after I left and my parents became empty nesters, it's like the strife in their marriage became even worse.
Yeah.
And it led to a long separation, which led to a divorce a few years before my dad died. And as I said, it is my personal belief. If we spoke about these taboo topics
Yeah.
even more, then it would be there would be the divorce rate would go down. And we've gone over an hour. I don't like clock watching, but I want to get this in because we could speak for hours and hours.
We could.
I know, right? It's just, and this is, guys, one of the reasons why why I am even speaking so much is because Kayla and I have never had this conversation before. So exactly. So we're kind of getting to know we're getting to know each other. So the card game Uno, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are 4 questions I have for you, and they fall under these 4 or 5. 4 questions. Draw 2, draw 4, reverse, and skip. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So out of those 4 cards, well, 5. Wild in
Yes.
in addition. So out of those 5 cards, I have a question for each one of them. You can choose 3. Draw 2, draw 4, reverse, and skip, and wild. So choose one of those 4.
Okay.
One of those 5. Draw 2, draw 4, reverse, skip, wild.
I love a good wild card.
Okay.
I enjoy.
No, when you choose the card, I have a question for that card.
So you want me to just pick one at a time?
Yeah, one at a time.
Okay, go ahead. Wild. Give me a wild card.
Okay, what's one wild thing that nobody really knows about you that would surprise everyone?
Wow.
See, that's why it's a wild card.
I know. Okay. I am 96% extrovert, but yeah, I'm 96% extrovert. I took a great test. But I find myself with a lot of self-doubt, and I don't pursue things because I'm afraid I'm not going to do well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think I can help you with that.
Good.
I was hearing Maren Golding speak, and from what you're saying, that sounds like imposter syndrome.
Yes. Yes.
And Maren Golding said, I don't know if you know Maren Golding, but he said one of the reasons why we have imposter syndrome is because we are the only persons on the planet that have heard every single lie we've told. And because we know every lie that we've told, sometimes when we say things, we ourselves might not believe it. So that's where the imposter syndrome comes from. And the key to that, he says, is if you say it, believe it. If you say it, believe it. So that's for your wild. So next, you're welcome. Next card.
Draw 2.
Draw 2. All right. What are the 2 things, other than salvation and your family, what are the 2 things on this world that you can't, that you own or use or have, that you can't live without?
Food.
Food, that's one. Okay.
And music.
And music,
yes,
okay.
I'm a music person. I love good music.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Next card.
My last card, because you said pick 3, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's
I
draw
hope she
2,
goes
there's
with.
reverse, there's,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not sure what you're going to, okay, I'll say reverse, because I'm not sure what you're going to say, so I'm excited.
Okay. You said exactly the one that I wanted you to choose. Reverse. Now you are the interviewer. Ask me any question. I'm gonna actually give you 2 questions, so there's a reverse.
Okay, okay. What has been the most challenging thing that you faced being a father?
Oh, good question. Ah, okay. First, yeah, 2 things. One, knowing how to discipline my
Yeah,
child.
because you have a girl. That's, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also knowing when to step in when my wife is treating her in a way that she shouldn't.
Mm.
So sometimes she might snap at her, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Lori, calm
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
calm down, calm down. Yeah. And next question for you, another reverse question from you.
Yes. What are 2 of the most challenging things you've had to face as a husband?
Good question again. Um, self control.
Okay.
Number one, self control. Knowing in these times of heated discussions when to temper yourself and
Mm.
listen to yourself and say, okay, Yarquin, this is how you're gonna handle it. Try not to raise your voice, and don't 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 and I'm named Yarquin after my father, but we have different middle names.
Mm-hmm.
But we know how his marriage went. So, in cases like this, I would say don't be Yarquin Senior.
Mm-hmm. Don't be your father.
Yeah, don't be your father. Even when you're compared to him at times, that's just to press your buttons. And the second one is, can you hear me? Okay.
Call. Go ahead.
Okay. And the second one is learning how to communicate more effectively.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, it's been up and down as all relationships and marriages are. Um, and because my brother is also a divorcee, there is kind of, let me not say kind of, there sometimes seems to be a cloud hanging over my marriage,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what I try to do is number one, I latch on to, what's the word am I looking for? I latch on to good examples of marriages.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a couple at church who is older than we are, who they, to me, they are the example of a great marriage. The wife is the stern one who is very meticulous, and the husband is the easygoing one.
Yeah.
I call him Uncle B, or Uncle Big now, Uncle Cliffy.
Mm-hmm.
You probably put together the name by now. And she doesn't like to be called Auntie Donna, so I just call her Donna.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys are watching this, thank you guys for being one of our exemplary marriages. And the other one, um, as I'm thinking about it, my voice is fluctuating because it brings tears to my eyes because I think of this pastor as my father, and his name is Pastor Emil Maxi.
Oh.
Um, I tell everyone that I was supposed to come to Canada because when I came to my current church here at Silver Heights, it was his first week or month at that church. He hadn't even started preaching.
Mm.
And we started going to that church at the same time. And he came and he visited us. And, we're talking, and he knew that it was a young marriage and stuff like that. And he has brought me and my wife out of some situations whereby I tell everyone that if I hadn't met Pastor Maxi, we would have been divorced by now. And I tell everyone, such as yourself, who is in ministry, that he's a pastor's pastor.
Yeah. Thank
So
you for that one. Thank you.
you're welcome. I will definitely do the introductions. And as long as your husband is open to coming to Canada, I'm sure that you guys would love to meet. But yeah, thanks for that question. It, as you could say, it evoked some emotion out of me. But as I said, we could speak on for
Forever.
ages.
I know, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll let you go. But this was wonderful, Kayla. Thank you for coming on to What's It Like. Jesus, one last recording. It was nice to speak to you, Kayla, and thank you for coming on to What's It Like with Yorks. I'm sure this won't be the last of us being on each other's stuff. Because one of the things that I would love to also speak towards is, because I believe that there's an attack on being a gentleman.
Oh, yes. Oh,
right?
Yes.
There's an attack on being a gentleman. And when men speak about it, such as the Derek Jacksons of the world and the other man who passed away, it tends to get muddied, whereby it became about the men and not the message that they were carrying.
Yeah.
And also, there wasn't much reflection. And also, there wasn't much reflection on God, right? So that's where I would like to steer these conversations towards. What does it take to be a nice gentleman with the help of God, right? And I would love to meet your husband one day, and I'm sure that my wife would love to meet you.
Yes, that'd be great. I'd love that. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening and just being a part of our conversation. So thank you. And I can't wait to come back.
Thank you. And whenever you have any podcasts or anything, feel free to come.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. And guys, thank you for watching.
Bye.